like the reaction of the civilized world. It was one of revulsion. It was a grotesque end for an awful monster who tortured and murdered his own people.
But the monster had most dignity in that room.
There's absolutely no doubt about it, and I think Bridget Laffan is right. I think history will show that they managed somehow to turn him into a martyr, and that memory will live on. You know, after the illegal invasion, and even people who supported it are now ceding that it was a disastrous error. One wondered how could they handle the actual capture of Saddam Hussein to make the situation worse, and they've done precisely that. Bridget referred to 3,000 American troops. There were 3,000 people killed alone in July, as many people as were killed in Northern Ireland in 30 years. So.
Or the World Trade Center in one day.
Or the World Trade Center. It's an appalling mess. It's interesting to see the condemnation across the water. Half a dozen ministers, including Gordon Brown, forced out the Prime Minister yesterday. We haven't been anything near so forthcoming. In fact, I recall asking the Taoiseach when George Bush made his extraordinary announcement about the coalition of the willing. I remember asking the Taoiseach, were we on it? And the Taoiseach said that he thought it was a very good question and that he was curious and he'd like to have a look at the list himself. We've been extremely docile on the issue.
But George Bush was trying to include everybody who had any marginal part in this matter.
He was.
As the coalition of the willing. He didn't want to be alone in this adventure.
He was. And, regrettably, he's on his own now because so much rides on the strategy that is to be announced tomorrow or Wednesday from the United States. I have no idea whether that's likely to make it worse or not. I have no idea whether the new Democratic majority has a strategy either. If saturating Iraq with troops is the way out, I think that's inevitably going to bring political reaction in the United States. And he seems to be talking about compelling those unfortunate troops who are there to stay for a longer term and pile in more troops on top of them. An appalling tragedy has occurred, an appalling mess has been created, and I don't get the impression from George Bush and the small group of people around him who created the mess, who tried to get President Clinton to invade. One would reasonably think that if they were going to do that, that they would have a plan for how they would handle the situation after the invasion. There was no plan, and the situation now is descending into chaos.
Ian Paisley.
Well, I've no doubt that the tyrant had to be deposed.